checked some links,
Okay.
and I know somebody who's very envious of you.
Oh,
Hi Ken, thanks for being here today.
you're welcome.
Yeah. What kind of work do you do here in the co-working space?
Mainly I'm working on a software project.
You're working on a software project.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What do you work on?
It's a project of my own that I've been building some prototypes of, and kind of as an exploration, and it's basically an interactive storybook, kind of visual encyclopedia that's inspired by books that I really loved as a kid, books that kind of help kids, explore subjects like technical subjects, books like one book called The Way Things Work.
Yeah, I followed
Deubner
your link
College.
that you sent me for that, and I had a look at and I watched them. Forgot the name of the person. It's David.
David Macaulay.
That's it. Yeah, I watched a video presentation he gave of when he first sent me the link saying The Way Things Work. I just pictured. Do you know Heath Robinson?
No.
He's a British illustrator and cartoonist, and he illustrates how things work, but in an unnecessarily laborious way, and it's very humorous. And I think it might be a good inspiration for your project.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where does your project take place?
Like, what is the subject? Like, where?
Yes, and where will it be for?
Yeah, that I don't know
And who
yet.
for?
Yeah. I mean, I could possibly. There's a couple paths I could take. One path is sort of complete the programming and the content, the illustrations that are used, and just try to publish it through the App Store and market it that way as a educational app for kids. But maybe something that also has some aesthetic appeal to their parents that they might find interesting as well. I'm trying to be sort of broad. It's focused on younger people, but maybe sort of broad in its appeal at the same time. So that's one path. And then I think there are other, once I have it kind of out there and built, I could see it potentially partnering with organizations, maybe other content creators, maybe organizations like museums or historical tourist sites as guides, as like a digital guide to a specific, say, some archaeological ruins or something.
Right, and you've got a bit of a history as working with museums.
I have, yes.
Yes. Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. I've done, I was an artist in residence at the Exploratorium Museum in San Francisco, doing a couple different projects. I've gone through a lot of my the creative side of my career has gone through a lot of different phases. I did a big time-lapse photography project.
With a very tiny camera.
With Pretty Tina? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I looked it up yesterday. I thought, what did he use? And it was a 4-megapixel Canon Powershot.
Well, it was, state of the art at the time. Maybe it was even at the time. It was kind of outdated because I needed a bunch of them.
Yes.
And I wanted to get them cheaply.
Yeah.
And because of the way the project was formatted, I didn't need a super high resolution image. So
I remember
in the future, I'll regret that. But
yes, yeah, definitely. Because, at the time, I remember looking it up because I actually saw your project at the time, thinking, who is this person?
Oh, cool.
This is great. And so I saw your project then and looked it up and thought, that's exactly it. Work with a camera that doesn't have to be top of the range. And I understood the need for maybe replacing them because of the shutter, maybe wearing
exactly.
out.
Exactly, and they did. So I had a bunch, and I would just swap them out when I needed them. So.
And a friend of mine had started experimenting with sky photographs, and he's an architectural photographer who's quite well known in Europe. And I showed him your project, and I think he was a little bit envious. And I was trying to get a question from him in time to see you, but I emailed him too late. Are you familiar with, there is this person who's doing a 30-year time-lapse, that's his goal, of the New York City skyline? Have you heard of him?
I have not.
Okay, let me look up his name. I've written it down somewhere. I think he lives somewhere on the other, this Joe Di Giovanna. That's his name.
No.
You should look him up, and I was wondering
I
if
will.
there's maybe a bit of competition out in the time-lapse world to take the coolest time-lapse.
Well, it's a healthy competition. And I haven't been doing much time-lapse. I've kind of moved on to some other projects, but the more people doing interesting stuff the better.
Yeah,
So.
maybe worth having a look at it. I
Yeah,
thought
no, I'll
yours
definitely
was
check it
a
out.
much
Yeah.
more interesting
Thank you.
rendition. This is just, I mean, you got a huge reception for it. Like, people loved it, right? And you've had many exhibitions with it.
Fair number, yeah. And it got sort of semi-viral. By today's standards, maybe just okay, but it got some attention.
Yeah. But that's how I came across it.
Yeah.
I think I came across it on Vimeo because
Oh, cool.
you must have been
That's
a
great.
suggested view or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else did I want to ask you? Good that we can cut.
Yeah.
So now you have this history of working with museums, and through this project going somewhat viral, you got additional exposure to, I imagine, more museums or more places of education.
I have through, it was actually initially connected with the Exploratorium through a different project. It was very different. It was a really simple little electronics project that sort of appealed to kids, and it was a way to build something sort of creative and fun, but maybe learn some basics about electronics, building these little blinking bugs, these little bugs with blinking eyes. And I brought that to Maker Faire, and through that I connected with the Exploratorium, and then through the Exploratorium I had sort of established a relationship, and they sort of connected me with some other museums, and eventually worked on that time-lapse project. So that sort of period of my sort of creative career really helped me connect with that community.
Which then segues into today, when you want to introduce a new project, you already are familiar with some of the inns.
Right. I'm hoping
I'm
hoping that'll help.
I hope so too. So this project, is it to be on computer screens, or where do you mainly develop it for?
It's sort of, because it's the primary way, the way it's designed is that you interact with it through a touch screen. So it's primarily designed with a touch screen device in mind. And right now it's just runs on iPhones, iPads. It could be adapted excuse me, for other devices. It could potentially work with non-touch screen devices, so like a normal computer, a regular desktop, or but there's also larger interactive touchscreen devices that you do see in museums, sort of like interactive tables and things like that. So it could be ported to any of those types of environments.
So it's quite attractive for museums and educational environments. Yeah. And how long have you been working on this?
I've been working on it for quite a long time. I'm not going to say exactly.
Okay.
But yeah, on and off for quite a few years.
I have a project that began a very long time ago, and I couldn't strictly say I have been working on it for that period.
Same here, right? Yeah. So and it just turns out that it's taken, I've actually been working on it full time for over a year now, and that's kind of what it has taken to really move it forward.
Yeah.
Rather than in the past of working, having a job from full time or even less than full time. It's been to really focus the energy required. Some people can do it. Some people, I don't know, don't sleep or something. But I need.
People are weird. Yes.
I need a lot of energy to work on a project like this and a lot of focus. So because I'm doing the programming and I'm doing the illustration, so it's.
Yeah, I was wondering about this because that seems like a huge workload. Some people would have enough of a job just doing the illustration. Is it going to be like the way things work that has 400 pages? How comprehensive?
Not initially. I mean, I couldn't do that by myself.
No.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to build by myself is just something that's a nice basic example of the project and how it illustrates how it works, and also a nice set of content to populate it with.
Yeah.
And I have kind of a vague idea of what that entails, and I've been just trying to get just for an initial release that is fun and interesting and has enough content to keep someone's attention and kind of demonstrates how the app actually works.
Have you already run it past a couple of young people?
Yeah, a little bit. I need to do more of that, more like user testing, and ideally with kids. So I've been sort of calling on my friends who have kids.
Yeah. Could you imagine there being two versions? I read some of the text in the descriptions, and it felt like it was somewhere in the middle, and it wouldn't quite meet the lower age groups, but would be okay for the older ones.
Exactly. So that's something I've been the way the text reads right now is I've made somewhat of an effort to tune some of the text for younger readers, but I haven't. That's not an area of. I feel like that's kind of needs kind of expertise in that area, and that's not something that I really know how to do correctly. So I've been kind of winging it.
Okay.
And some of the text, I tried to tune it for younger readers. Some of it I didn't. Some of it is copied and pasted from Wikipedia, just as a placeholder. So
how do you track things like that? File management is I could spend forever learning more about it.
Yeah.
How do you keep track of which bit you still need to work on and which bit is done?
Yeah, I mean, I think with software development, there's a lot of practices around that, or else no software development would ever happen.
Okay, yes.
So you do have, there's pretty standard tools for tracking versioning. As you change a file, you always have the whole history of every change you've ever made, and you can always look back at your history of what you've done. And then just, there's lots of tools for tracking tasks, basically. Fancy to-do lists.
Sounds like something I should get into.
Yeah. That's a whole other science and art, is project management and agile development and things like that.
Yeah, I just realized now, I look at files, I have hundreds of thousands of files of images, and many of them not very important at all, but they're just in your vault. And I'm now finding, and I've always been quite good at trying to file organize well, which is making my life a little bit better now, but it's still a nightmare. I've spent a full week last year just organizing files on hard drives.
I just buy more hard drives.
I need to be able to find them eventually and not have them
search.
Duplicate them. Exactly.
Yeah.
Name them in a way that you can find them.
It's tricky.
Yeah.
It's not an easy task.
So, working for yourself, do you have any funding?
I'm self-funded right now. Yeah. I'm just,
familiar with the self-funding life.
And I've just chosen to kind of focus my time and energy on this for a period of time and see where it goes.
I saw an article about your tiny workspace at home. Is this why you're using co-working spaces? Because your space at home is the size of a pantry.
That's a really old article.
I know, it's very old.
That was two houses ago. So
okay.
And actually, my current home office is a pretty small room, which is slightly bigger than that one. But that's a big reason. That's one of the reasons I work in co-working spaces.
What brings you here, and when's the first time you came?
I came here a bit over a year ago, and it was mainly just. I mean, a big part of it is you'll kind of go crazy just if you're working full time on your own. Yeah. You can't spend all that time and you just have an apartment in the city. You can't spend all that time alone in an apartment, psychologically. But so I use coffee. When I don't need any tools that are at home, and I can just work on my laptop, then I'll go coffee shop sometimes. I haven't been a full-time occupant of a user of a co-working space. Usually I do 1 day a week. And it's just for a change of scenery, a chance to interact with some other people. I like this one because I looked at a few different co-working spaces, and this one seems to have a little more diversity on a number of levels as far as the people and the type of projects people are working on. And then there's a social element, which is nice. Some of the other co-working spaces I looked at were a little more, just felt like tech offices.
Okay.
And I've spent enough time in offices of tech companies, and I don't know, I thought something different would be.
So you said you came here first about a year ago?
About that, yeah.
About that. Do you find you more productive if you come here?
It depends on what I'm working on, but generally having a place that there's not, there aren't really many, the kind of purpose to be here is to work on something, and so it's sort of a way I've set that time aside. I'm here. The reason I'm here is to work on whatever, and so I tend to do that. So,
have you met many people through this space?
Some. The way I've generally met people is through the weekly lunch, the potluck lunch, sexy salad.
Yeah.
And but as far as the day-to-day, there's probably actually a little less interaction than I expected.
Interesting.
I do a little bit of chit chat here and there, but I'm sure some people may be more extroverted than I am.
You just need to make lots of cups of tea. I
Right.
believe that might
Is that
be
the secret?
It's hanging out in the kitchen.
Yeah.
That seems to be the magic.
That is where
thing.
I chatted with people. Yeah,
That's where we met.
So, right? Oh, that's right.
Yeah, because I was cleaning up or something. Back for part 2.
Okay.
Back for part 2. We got cut off, lost half of our interview. We were speaking about co-working spaces, and I wanted to ask, how did you find this space, and how did you choose it?
I'd been sort of shopping around. This is when I was kind of in the transition of looking for places in Oakland. So I knew I was going to move over here, and I was looking at the time that I needed a co-working space. I was looking in both San Francisco and over here. So I looked at a few spaces in SF, and thanks.
You looked around.
So I was looking around, and I looked at a few spaces in San Francisco, and then I looked over here. I didn't look at that many, but some of the spaces I saw in the city were they had a little less diversity as far as people and also the type of work people were doing. And there was definitely more of a strong, surprise, but very technical, tech-oriented. And it felt a lot like a lot of tech offices I had worked in, and I was looking for something. Part of it was, I'm working on my own project right now. I'm taking a break from working in tech. Why would I put myself back in an environment that felt just like that? So, So when I found this place, I felt it was really a different atmosphere, very different feel, and there's more diversity in the people and in the type of projects people are working on. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that this place is a little more mission-driven and community-oriented, and I think that influences the type of people that end up participating. So,
tapping into the diversity aspect, there's something I've also noticed here: the wide variety of age, and also gender.
Right.
So that's something that I wasn't expecting to find in co-working spaces, and this is partly also why I'm doing these interviews, because I wasn't quite sure what to find and whether co-working spaces are a space for me that I can fit.
Right.
And so I thought, well, maybe other people have the same sort of question, or they're wondering and feeling instantly they hear co-working space and think, oh, this is very tech and probably young and probably white, and I probably can't join that. But there are spaces, and this is a really good example of that.
It is. I agree. Yeah. And like the spaces I saw in the city were they definitely skewed younger. And I think on average it's pretty young, but I don't feel too out of place. There's definitely people my age, and I don't feel out of place. I feel comfortable here. Yeah.
See, that's really good to hear.
Yeah.
Might make somebody else feel more comfortable as well. We've covered those questions. I think we don't need to go over that too much more. I forgot to ask you at the beginning, where you're from and what's your education?
Yeah, so I grew up in the Boston area and went to school out there. I went to UMass, University of Massachusetts, and stuck around there for a little bit. I did so my degree was in, I kind of changed my major a few times. I started UMass as an art major and didn't quite, at the time, I think, I liked the idea of being an artist, but I didn't quite know really what I wanted to do, and I wasn't quite, inspired and motivated to sort of commit to what it takes to commit to being an artist. And being poor, and I think you need to be driven to be for it to be worthwhile.
I think
at the time, I just didn't know. Yeah,
that's something that I feel like so many people drop off being an artist or working in that career at a certain point in life because it's too much pressure. At some point you realize you just cannot maintain a comfortable standard of living that's age appropriate. Right. And I had no idea. I didn't really have that perspective at the time because I was like 18, but what I was running into was more I didn't quite have a strong enough drive and a specific sense of what my artistic identity was, and I was a little disillusioned with some of the realities of art departments at big universities, and so I switched out,
kind of bounced around. Ended up getting I was interested in film, so I ended up going into the closest thing that you could do in the area of film was get a communications degree. So I switched to that, and actually, sort of towards the end of my college career, sort of reconnected with my inner nerd and started taking computer science classes. But at that point, it would have been logistically very challenging to change. So I wrapped up my degree, but then started working as a web developer for a newspaper in the area. Stuck around there for a while before coming over to San Francisco.
Right, and you stayed really interested in your inner nerd.
Yes, definitely. I realized I kind of knew it as a younger person that I started programming computers when I was like 10 or 11.
Before it was cool.
Before it was cool. And then sort of drifted away from that, got into some other interests, but just, eventually reconnected with that. And yeah.
Why did you pick San Francisco? How did you come here, and why did you pick it?
Yeah. I mean, at the time, San Francisco seemed like I wanted to live in a city. I wanted to live someplace more, had more going on than Western Massachusetts. As nice it is out there. But and then it was also the kind of first tech boom, and so it was a big pull for anyone who worked in my field to come out there. And I took advantage of that.
Was it easy to get a job back then here?
Yes.
From your background?
Yes.
Okay.
It was a crazy time. I learned. I'd kind of learned quite a bit at that point through the classes I'd taken and being self-taught after college, and it was definitely a gold rush. So it was.
That's
if you
really
had a
good
pulse
term.
and you turned on a computer once, then
that was enough.
They would hire you.
Damn it! I really missed that. I can do that today.
Yeah.
What's your future vision, let's say, for next year, for 2020? What are you hoping will come together?
So I have a few different avenues I'm going to explore with this current project. But it's kind of, I don't have a pinned down plan at this point. So I'm still kind of blue sky thinking about that right now. So we'll see.
Out of the blue question, because I may be not starting to screen my videos until first week of December, and it's the Advent period. And in Germany, and I think you kind of have it here as well, we have Advent calendars.
We have them too, but it's not as, it's kind of in the background. Yeah.
Maybe you can make us a digital one.
All right, yeah.
Anyway, so, and instead of an Advent calendar, piece of chocolate every day, I just put out one of these videos every day, just for the first 24 days in December. So a somewhat sort of, let's say, spiritual question. What do you do for spiritual health? And it doesn't have to be religious. It can be very broad. How you want to approach this. What helps you, or what do you do for it?
I do a few different things. I do some meditation, probably not as much as I used to, but that has in the past really helped me sort of feel connected with myself, and not too. It's just hard to put my finger on exactly what the quality is, but it's helps me know what's going on with myself and feeling. Yeah.
How long do you sit for when you sit?
Anywhere from 10 minutes to half an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is still a regular practice for you?
Unless I've been kind of slacking off.
Well, here's your reminder.
Thank you. But I also do, being out in nature helps a lot too. I do lately. My new thing has been cycling and.
Cycling in nature or
in
cycling
nature.
to get to places?
Both, but with the idea of being in nature as much as possible.
Where do you go?
Oakland Hills are nice.
You go up there by bike?
Sure.
Wow.
And let's see, I did a big ride in Sonoma County, kind of both on and off road. So it's kind of a relatively new hobby. So I'm still discovering places to do this kind of riding around here.
Great.
But it's
really
good. It's good for my head. So
good.
Yeah.
Do you recommend people try out this co-working space?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a really nice environment, and I think
Where are we?
we are at Impact Hub in Oakland.
This is not an advertisement specifically, but
starting
it's a
to feel
pretty good
that way.
space. Yeah, I know. I'm going to go to other co-working spaces in San
Yeah.
Francisco, except for the very big one. It's in the news enough right now.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
No. Where should people go and find you to see what you're currently working on, to get the latest and greatest?
The main site where I talk about what I'm working on is murphlab.com.
There'll be a link below. Yeah.
So that's the
Okay.
spot.
Well, go visit, see what he's been up to. Thank you for your time, especially for
Yeah.
the second round.
No problem.
Okay, I hope you have a productive day.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, links below, also to Ken's History of the Skies project and upcoming projects. I'll add the new link when he's ready to share. Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Okay. Did it stay on that time?
Yes.
Good. But it's really just like probably 20 hours of work.
Don't let that stand between you and greatness.